Hi everyone. Today we'll be looking at budget. It is one of the recently introduced topics about ACCA for APM, and you can also find this topic in one of the technical articles. I can also link them in my video in the comment section. It is a very important topic, and it is likely to be tested in the coming few sessions. And the reason why ACCA has come up with this topic is because the traditional have received a lot of criticism. So let's start with what happened to the traditional budget. So firstly, businesses started to complain that it takes too much of senior management's time and is not as efficient value because all the businesses are evolving rapidly and the budgets keep changing. Even though the senior management allocates a lot of time to it, but it's not. Another complaint or an criticism has been that businesses must react quickly to customer needs in more competitive environments. And as far as the traditional budget systems are concerned, um, they don't really serve that purpose. And for this purpose to be served, it requires transferring power from the center, meanwhile from the senior managers to manage the customer. The old command and control structure of organizations represented by traditional budgeting has become outdated. Thirdly, the primary drivers of shareholder value in modern business are intellectual capital, such as brand law, customers, even management teams. These are outside the orbit of budgetary controls. You don't account for these things in the budget, especially in the traditional budget. Extensive gaming. Budgets were initially introduced as a planning tool for managing costs and cash flows. However, over time, budgets also came to be used as performance management tools for managing business. Performance contract was introduced as follows: a target, usually expressed in terms of budget, sales, cost, profits, and rates, such as return on capital employed. Incentives were introduced based on achieving these targets, as bonuses, promotions for achieving the budgets, resources allocated to equipment based on the budget. So a lot of things are dependent on the budget, which leads to gaming. So one can say that the system sounds good in theory, but in practice, it leads to an annual performance trap, whereby actions of all managers are focused on meeting the performance targets of the current year. It can also lead to dysfunctional behavior, where a system can be manipulated to achieve some advantage, such as building back into the budget. So, what is some? If you want me to give some examples of gaming, it would be that managers negotiate lowest targets and highest preparing the budgets, or they always make the bonus takes approach, or never put the customer above sales target, or never share resources with other teams, or ask for more resources than you need. So these are the things that traditional budgets were contributing. So, and this was the reason why these are the disadvantages of traditional budgeting, and which kind of highlighted the need for why a new budgeting system needed, which actually serves the purpose and fulfills the need of dynamic processes. And this beyond budgeting was used. So, what is beyond budgeting? It is a set of guiding principles to enable an organization to manage its performance and decentralize its decision making process without traditional budgets. The core concept is to move from a business model based on centralized organization hierarchy control to organization based on empowerment and adoption. And Hope and Future suggests that following system should replace the traditional budgetary control purposes. So you need to replace financial targets with targets based on key performance indicators. Use stretch goals not linked to reward schemes for plan. Appraise managers using comparison with peers benchmarks to reward them accordingly. Devolve responsibility for planning away from the center. It means that give more authority to mid-level managers. Manage resources available for worthwhile opportunities, and using rolling forecasts, performance league tables, and other KPIs to measure control performance rather than just comparing actual results with the budget. So it's also kind of saying that the variance analysis is no longer the best way to assess performance. So we'll be going over these points one by one to help you understand what it actually mean, how beyond budgeting is different from the traditional budgeting system. Okay, so first of all, I would be going with the first goal, to like zoom in a bit, that is about setting targets. Please bear with my slow writing, please, that my writing remains intact. So, setting targets, what does it mean? But okay, first of all, let me explain you what is a stretch goal. It's a goal that requires an organization or a person to push themselves to their limit. Okay, this is what a stretch goal is. What does beyond budgeting do? Beyond budgeting encourages managers to set challenging targets or stretch goals that cannot be achieved by minor improvements in existing performance. So, managers are asked what their department could achieve, aim to maximize performance over short to medium term. Since the rewards will not depend on achieving targets, managers will not be incentivized to neglect easy targets. Raising targets encourages maximum profit potential. Setting targets based on KPI is quicker than setting detailed financial budgets, reducing the time spent on budget. And targets that align more with strategy than financial targets. So let me start writing the points. Setting targets based on KPIs is quicker than setting targets on detailed financial budgets. They align more with organizations' strategy than the financial targets. So the first thing that we spoke about was setting targets. I'm again extremely sorry for my hand. Okay. Um, the second thing that we spoke about um, was rewarding people. We said that rewards are not based on the achievement of budgets, right? So what happens is that fixed targets are set at the start of the year in a traditional budget, and the managers are rewarded if they achieve those targets, regardless of any changes in external environment. So this leads to data manipulation and gaming, an attitude of make the target whatever it takes, which is not right. Beyond budgeting the relative targets. What are relative targets? How managers perform compared to their peers. Performance versus peers or competitors are more relevant and realistic, unlike internally set targets. And they're also fair. Why they are fair? Um, because they consider changes in external environment. The economy is not doing well in a particular year, the comparative profits will also be lower. So this helps eliminate gaming, and as managers now see that the targets are fair. They're not being asked to achieve something that is not achievable for them. Okay, moving on. The third thing would be action planning. So in traditional budgeting, budgets are prepared at the start of the year using a top-down approach, and these fixed behavior is expected of the managers. But the problem is that in a dynamic business environment where organizations see the things change and move quickly, they must react to these changes. And traditional budgeting limits such reactions. So, what the beyond budgeting model does is that the business unit managers and frontline staff, unit managers, and I just need a second. Yes, so the business unit managers and the frontline staff develop their plans for maximizing customer satisfaction and shareholders' wealth. The role of senior management is to review these budget and challenge them. And unit managers only have to prepare these budgets quarterly or yearly, unlike monthly budgets. So this also allows them to respond to changing demand, anticipate business threats and opportunity. It basically enables a continuous open process that allows the team to create value. Now there's another topic as well that beyond budgeting looks at, and I'm so sorry for being so clumsy. Yeah, I wanted to go here. Okay, which is called managing resources. I just briefly explain what it does. That basically in traditional budgeting, budgets are the basis of deciding how resources should be allocated to each department. If new projects become available that were not envisioned in the budget was prepared, then funds will not be made available for that project. And this can also lead to a good business opportunity being lost. But in budgeting, resource decisions are devolved to frontline managers. Resource decisions are devolved to frontline managers. And what does that mean? That there is greater ownership, less waste, and making them more responsive. And funds are allocated based fast track review. The frontline teams need resources, they will be approved if they meet the agreed criteria. Very simple. This is another um, what do we call aspect of beyond budgeting, which revolves around coordinating activities. This is the D guys, coordinating. So in traditional budgeting systems, control is exercised by getting actual performance against the budget and asking managers to explain variance. Corrective action is taken to bring actual performance back into the line of budget. So this leads to a lot of focus on the short term according to Hope and Fraser. Few organizations fail to focus beyond the end of the current financial year. Beyond budgeting model uses a more diverse range of forward-looking indicators to manage performance. There is greater focus on trends and forecasts. There is focus on trends and forecasts. Extensive use of rolling forecasts and leading indicators to manage the view of what will happen in the future. So there's also extensive use of rolling forecasts to understand what will happen in the future. Lastly, beyond budgeting and its approach to controlling performance. So this is the last one. How does beyond budgeting control performance? If you remember in my budgeting video, I showed 8 purposes of budgeting, and these are the purposes of beyond budgeting. So controlling performance, the traditional budgeting system control is calculating actual performance against the budget and then asking managers to explain the variance. After that, corrective action is taken then to understand why the actual performance varies from the budget. This leads to a lot of focus in the short term, like I mentioned earlier. So, what beyond budgeting does is that there is significant use of comparison of KPIs achieved against benchmarks and the use of league tables. I think I'm repeating myself. Sorry. So, what happens is that, yeah, in beyond budgeting, really sorry, but I have mixed these two, so I'll just correct them here. These are This is the controlling performance, and then I'll explain it again. Okay, so controlling performance is this one, and now I'm going to move forward with coordinating activities. I think I wrote heading coordinating activities. So in traditional budgeting, the budget of all departments are coordinated. All right, but one can say that budgets are coordinated, but there's a question on whether all the departments are aligned with the organization's overall strategy. And Hope and Fraser believe that this yearly coordination is not sufficient. So what does budgeting do here is that it focuses on cross company collaboration. They look into SLAs, which are service level agreements between different departments to coordinate their activities. Under such agreements, one department will commit to providing goods and services to another department based on their demand and over a specific period of time. Also, because of this, the operational capacity rises and falls according to demand, not because they have to meet a predetermined criteria that was allocated in the budget. Is more So these are the six kind of purposes of non-budgeting and why it supersedes traditional budgeting. I'll also give you some advantages and disadvantages of non-budgeting. Okay, so first I'll just explain the advantages. Divisional managers will be more motivated. They will be given autonomy to plan for their business units. So high motivation of divisional managers. Another advantage could be that it creates a climate based on competitive success. Using relative performance measures and comparing performance with external benchmarks encourages the manager to focus on beating the competitors other than other managers. So I can say that creates a climate based on competitive success. Also, faster response to changes in customer needs as managers can react quickly to new threats and opportunities rather than adhere to an outdated budget. Sources will also be made available for new projects if they are worthwhile, even if not originally in the budget. Faster responses to changes in customer needs. Responses to performance is not only focused on financial numbers but KPIs. Lastly, targets become more challenging and have an external focus. This allows organizations to stress out and encouraging them to find a better way of doing things. Now, what could be the potential disadvantages for beyond budget organization culture may not support this approach because sometimes what happens is that senior managers are accustomed to command and control state of mind. They don't want change. It may not be appropriate for organization if financial control is crucial to success. Not appropriate if financial control is crucial to success. Planning, coordination, and evaluation can be more complicated. This is an added impact that reward systems might be more complicated too because managers don't know what they are achieving to achieve. They are achieving their targets, but their rewards are not linked to their targets. And there could also be resistance from staff and managers where traditional budgets are deeply ingrained. And that's about these are some of the few disadvantages. These are the advantages. Feel free to reach out if you have still questions about beyond budgeting. That's all there is to this topic. This beyond budgeting basically focuses on the fact that organizations need to step away from financial metrics and they need to look into other key areas as well, which are equally important for performance of an organization. Thank you for watching.